Hello, and welcome back to Here's the Piece. And here's the thing, we're talking once again about DC's Peacemaker on HBO Max. I'm here with my co-host Ari to talk about episode 4, Need I Say Door, by director Peter Sollett, and as usual, writer James Gunn. You might know Peter Sollett for Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, which is a classic 2000s comedy. James Gunn's going for the 2000s comedy directors in Peacemaker. But speaking of comedy, it's a very comedy-heavy episode. Ari, how did you feel? Did you laugh? Did you have a good time? Did you find peace in Peacemaker episode 4?
Yeah, I had a good time with this one. It moved the plot forward, maybe not like a ton, but yeah, I had a good time with it. I was very entertained, especially with the Michael Rooker stuff. The Michael Rooker stuff was pretty wild. We'll definitely be talking about that. He has some of the funniest parts of the episode. I loved Steve Agee. He has some great comedic bits in the episode.
Yeah, it was
Um,
definitely a good time. I had fun with this one. I didn't love it. I think it's probably my least favorite of the season so far. It feels the most like filler. It feels the most like this could have been cut down and been part of another episode type of a thing. And especially at the end, we just kind of end it where kind of in the middle of a scene, heading off to what should have probably been like the ending of the episode. And I felt mostly like this episode was a huge waste of time. There were funny parts, there were good scenes, but I really felt like the season was dragging its feet in this episode. But I'm excited to go through it beat by beat and maybe get some more that I might have missed as we go through the episode.
yeah, it doesn't really feel like a full, like it feels like half of an episode. Like they had to do 8 episodes, so they had to split these in two. But really, this should be like 1 hour long episode.
Yeah, James Gunn has been hyping up the last few, and now I think we know why, because this middle part has been all right, but it feels like it's treading water. And this episode got the characters where they had to be for what's probably going to be the last half of the episode, the last half of the season, because we are halfway through the season exactly now, and all the characters are in this spot where they're finally going to collide. Right next week, we're going to see Rick Flag and Peacemaker finally have a conversation again. We're going to see Hardcore and Rick Flag have to talk about right now their past. We're going to see a lot more of that come to fruition, but we're still in the setting stage right now, and it feels like frustrating in the moment to be sitting here just kind of setting the pieces up slowly. But I'm hoping that this is all setting things up for a second half that's really going to make it worth the wait so far.
Yeah. I guess we can start with the first scene of the episode, which was revealing because this season starts, and I was confused because it's like the door is just there, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And they revealed here that the door magically appeared in the woods when he was a kid, right after they run into some sort of, I don't know what that, I don't know, it looked like an elf in Harry Potter. Like, I don't know, and it was screaming for help, like, help me, and then he just shoots it in the head, and very gruesome death.
Yeah, really crazy scene because it's certainly some kind of alien creature, and it was enough for his dad to be like, "Oh, it's not human, so I can just murder it." But it reminds me a little bit of the creature that he sees in the room that's kind of like going around doing his business type of thing. I wonder what this alien's going to
Oh,
have been from. And they also set up that like radio thing, which is ultimately like the power source of this door that they have. It looks like a boombox when they pick it up, but uh, yeah, it's a very interesting setup because, like you said, they don't really mention this door at all in the first season, as far as I remember. And I was just like, oh, there's a dimensional door. Like it's just here. They don't really explain like where it came from, how he got it, and I like the explanation that his dad did not like invent this crazy device. They just found this alien technology and happened to have it. Right? It wasn't like his dad was smarter or better than anybody else. He just happened to find the right tools at the right time, and now he's the one that gets to do whatever he wants. Right? It's a very cool origin for this door.
I did not realize. I did not think about the fact that he kills something that could be an alien, and he just doesn't care. I did not put that together, but now that you said that, that's not subtle.
Yeah, and Chris is like, hey, just don't, because Chris, he is raised by his dad. He has his dad's tendencies in a lot of ways, but he does have the heart that his dad doesn't seem to have. He has that tendency towards mercy, towards forgiveness that I don't think uh, his father has, and that tendency to do the right thing, that tendency to have mercy, is something that I think was stuffed out of Chris throughout his childhood, throughout his life, over the course of his dad raising him, and yeah, he ultimately goes and kills his brother in a way where his dad was kind of egging him on and enticing him and stuff like this. When he smacks him in the face for having mercy for even 1 second, like that's what leads to him killing his brother ultimately, right? That creates a peacemaker who doesn't care, who doesn't feel, who just kills. And I think it's interesting to have this touch that caring person was already in Chris from the start. His dad tried to stuff it out as much as he could, but he really couldn't.
When that scene started, for a second, I was questioning: is this the other Earth, and is this setting up maybe some of Peacemaker's issues? But then it wasn't. But we definitely will see in the future what what's going on. What was going on with that Peacemaker, which I'm excited to see that. To see how that father of Peacemaker is different from this one, which we will definitely see in these upcoming episodes. But yeah, we have that open. Anything else you want to talk about with that opening scene?
Not with that opening scene. I want to mention this door a little bit more, though, because we do get mentioned later on that the code that Peacemaker puts in that gets him to this alternate reality, he says, I put my dad's code in and it brought me to this parallel universe. And I wonder, what does that mean? This is his dad's code. So his dad must have been doing this often. His dad must have had some kind of knowledge of this door, where it went. He must have been, in some level, either stealing these this technology from other universes. Like they mentioned, oh, if he doesn't know what he's doing, where did he get these helmets? And I wonder if he got them by just going to other universes and killing them and taking the shit. I think that might have been, he pillages these realities. He goes in there, he gets in their good graces, and he just kills them and takes all this stuff.
Yeah.
He
So
can take anything.
had he just straight up killed like dozens of his kid?
That's what it makes me feel like.
Um. And yeah, I'm curious what'll happen if that is the case when Chris realizes that's what happened. Like,
And I think
it,
Chris knows. I think Chris knows that's what happened, because when they bring it up, they say, well, if your dad didn't make this stuff, where did it come from? And Chris just kind of lets it go. He says, oh, it's complicated, and shoves it off
oh,
and doesn't address it. So I think Chris probably knows where these come from.
and he clearly is disconnected or is trying to pretend that it's not the case with the fact that like that is him. Like
Mm-hmm.
later in the episode, he's like, well, he's got, or I mean that isn't him. Like that's another person because at the one point in the episode, he's like, well, it has my DNA. That's
Mm-hmm.
me. And then she's like, well, no, it's not you. That's someone else. Like you wouldn't be, you would be lying to her if you said this because that's not like he's dead. Like you are not him. Um.
There is a possibility. I'm in my headcanon theorizing brain that at some point there was a baby swap or something like that. Like, what if the Chris we're following is from an alternate reality? He was swapped at some point. His dad was like, "Oh, I don't like this one," or maybe
Oh,
his Chris got sick. Maybe his Chris, breaks his leg, and he's like, "I don't like this one anymore." So he goes to another universe and just kid swaps, leaves his Chris behind, takes another Chris with him, and Chris doesn't know it, but he's essentially been adopted from another reality.
then they could make it so the DCEU Chris actually is the DCEU Chris.
Could you
He's the
imagine?
original. Yeah, he's the original. He's the baby from that world, and now he's back in his world. I could see James Gunn doing something like that. Um, I really liked the comedy in this episode. I liked that they brought back the Ginger Cool one more time.
Yeah, Ginger Cool. We followed him. He had this really fun sequence where his team is rolling up on Peacemaker, and he's trying to delay it. He's trying to Rooker's about to shoot Eagly down, and he knocks him over, and he comes up with some crazy excuse of like, "Oh, there was another eagle, and he came at you also." And I think it's very funny to see him trying to delay the conversation, delay unlocking the door. He's like, "Oh, was that a cat? I think I hear a cat." And
That was
I've
great.
been really liking this
That
guy.
was great. And then I love how they continue it, and he's like, "Well, can we at least later like go back for the cat?" Yeah, I loved Michael Rooker getting knocked down. For a second, I thought he was dead.
Yeah, I was
Like
shocked. I said that would be a James Gunn thing to do, though, to bring in Rooker for just like a couple of scenes and then just kill him like by accident.
like
I thought that was really happening.
his head goes on a rock. And then I love that he's like, "No, I am this ancient thing, and that means he's actually the main bird." And so I need to kill him. And now he's on this journey. And the next episode, the trailer for this episode made it look like this episode was going to be him hunting for Eagly, but it's really just I guess just this episode was set up for the next episode.
Yeah, it seems
Um,
like the next week's going to be him hunting eagerly. Did you like
yeah,
Rooker here? I'm imagining that Rooker and the comedy around Rooker and the writing around Rooker is going to be what divides people on the episode. If you thought he was funny or if you thought he was just annoying. Did you
yeah,
like him?
I definitely thought it was funny, especially when he's racist and he's just like, "Oh, the Chinaman," and I'm like, "Is this Walking Dead all over?" And that's the same joke in The Walking Dead, that he's racist, xenophobic, that he mistakes one Asian country for another, and I'm pretty sure that's exactly what he calls Glenn at the beginning of The Walking Dead. So I'm wondering if James Gunn is trying to reference The Walking Dead. But yeah, I thought he was really fun, really funny. I mean, I feel like most of the humor here, if you don't like James Gunn humor, then you're just not gonna really have a lot of fun with this. But yeah, I thought he was a lot of fun, especially towards the end. I mean, we got to talk about that.
Yeah, I
What the
wanted to. I didn't think he was super fun. I thought the performance is good, but I kept waiting to figure out what the joke was. It felt like the joke was just, oh, Michael Rooker is saying things that are racist. Isn't that funny that he's saying racist things? And it was funny for like maybe one line, but then at some point it just became like, okay, like is that the only joke that this guy is racist? Like I think I got it, and I wonder if they're gonna do more than just have him be a racist guy. I liked it more when he was obsessed with eagles. That was a fun, weird character touch more than just racist guy.
I don't I cannot hear you. Yeah, I cannot hear you at all. But until he gets back, but yeah, I liked it, but I can understand that. I mean, I do think there will be more though. I mean, they set him up to, even for this episode and the last one, they set him up that he is obsessed with eagles. So I think that they will continue that. I don't think Eagly will die. I don't think they would do that. I think that he'll come close, but I did. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna see Eagly die.
They're not killing Eagly.
No,
Second,
no.
Eagly's gonna die. No, no, no. They're not
It
killing.
might it might come close and try to make you think that he's gonna die, but I don't. That's not actually gonna happen. We gotta see Crypto team up with Crypto Eagly team up in Man of Tomorrow.
Now, how much did you hear of my Michael Rooker critique?
I just heard the beginning of it where you're like, okay, is it just funny that he's racist? Is that the whole joke? And
Yeah,
I
that was my most of my critique. I liked when they leaned in more to the eagerly obsession kind of stuff, and I was not finding it very funny to see Michael Rooker just saying slurs to people.
Yeah, I think that's a thing James Gunn likes to do, is make a joke, overstay its welcome. Um, but I think there will be more. I mean, they set up in the last episode that he's really obsessed with, like, specifically eagles. So I think there will be. I think there will be more. Um,
I like that line he says about Eagly being like the king of all eagles, and
yeah,
that's a joke, but I've been hyping up this multiverse of Eaglies that we're going to see at some point, and I wonder if we will see Eagly end up being like the leader of like a clan of eagles in some sequence, and that could be a nice throwback to this moment.
That'd be incredible. Imagine a clan of eagles defeating the actual clan.
Or even if we see for a second an alternate Eagly who actually is this big metaphorical leader or whatever, that would be a fun callback. But I think we're going to see a callback. I'm firmly on the multiverse of Eaglies train until proven wrong.
Like a Hulk-sized eagly.
We're going to see all size Eaglies. They're
What
going
do
to
you
go
think
all
about
out on the
this? What
Eaglies.
do you think about the Rick Flag stuff in this episode?
He was not super in it much. He's in it towards the end. Like, I am curious about this setup with Hardcore because I was wondering like how are they going to draw all these characters back together? They're not all going to be united like happily, right? And at first they're setting up that Economos, he's going to be the essentially like the guy on the opposite side who's turned against the team who picks his job over his family, but they're turning it on us. They're going with Hardcore, the one who's had her life fall apart the most. He approaches her, who he probably sees as the most vulnerable person among the team, the most willing to crack, and he approaches her. And I think it's interesting that uh, he also mentions his ending in Creature Commandos. If you've been watching since Creature Commandos, that season ends with Rick Flag Sr. in a very bad state. And then all of a sudden he shows up as Superman and he's fine. And people are kind of wondering what happened. And this is kind of lampshades it. He says, "Oh yeah, I broke my back and now it's not broken anymore." But
Wait, did he actually say those words?
not specifically, but he said his exact quote was, his Hardcore says, "Oh, I heard you were injured a while back," and he says, "Yeah, broke my back. That was just some Waller shit." And that was all he says. He just mentions that he broke his back and he's fine now.
I like that they reference that both of him and the Suicide Squad turned against Waller's order when she took things too far.
Yeah, they got it. It was. I think this is the first time this season they've actually said Amanda Waller. Like they've said her, they said people something like that. And I was starting to wonder if they were going to pull something on us, and Amanda Waller was not who they were talking about. Like there was some multiverse switcheroo, and it was not going to be her. But they've now said it is Amanda Waller, and she's still in charge. So I was wondering if there was going to be some kind of switch that we weren't expecting.
Well,
but
she's not
no.
still in charge of Argus. He's in charge of Argus.
Well,
now.
yeah, she's still around. I thought they were going to do something where she's like there's a swap because they were doing a weird thing of not saying Amanda Waller when they were talking about her mother. They were just saying, "Oh yeah, her mother" when she was in charge, and I thought they were going to pull something, but nothing was pulled. There's been no rug pulled.
I'm just glad that we're in a place where they're actually using Argus outside of the movie Suicide Squad, because it was just that movie. Like they took away Suicide Squad from the CW just so that they could make that movie and then eventually do a sequel. And I'm glad we're now seeing Argus, the DC universe. Like let's build up this. That's what I like about the cinematic universe. Establish that this is a thing that exists.
Yeah, Argus and Rick Flag Sr. are essentially our continuity through all of us. They're the only thing that showed up in all three projects so far. They're the thing that pulls us all the way back to the DC EU, right? So that's essentially our shield, and Rick Flag is our Nick Fury. What I think a much more active role in the plot than Nick Fury had throughout the MCU.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think of him recruiting Harcourt? What do you think of him kind of taking advantage of this person in a very vulnerable state and making her turn against her friends and saying, "Oh, you don't have to, but if you do, you'll be able to pay your utilities and eat and not be dead."
Yeah, I'm a fan of it. I thought that this was honestly probably the way to go. I mean, I think Economos seemed like he was the one that was going to crack. I mean, these are his friends. Like these are the only thing he really has. Like he's gonna. I didn't know how it was going to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen like that. Um, but yeah, I have a question. Does anything in this episode change or not change Brainiac predictions?
I think the Brainiac predictions have heated up.
Yeah.
There's a scene towards the end, especially where they start talking. I call it a radio, but once you get a better look at it, it's not. It's more like a I don't know, a keyboard or something like that. It looks like a calculator a little bit. Whatever that alien technology is that they found in the forest that powers this doorway. And I don't remember who he's talking to. I think it was Vigilante, one of his two friends that was with him, they mentioned like, how do you know that this is an actual alternate dimension or that it's not just showing you what it thinks you want? And that's something we've been talking about all season is this a real alternate dimension? Because it seems so perfectly aligned to what Peacemaker would want that I started to question if this is by design. You know, it gives him everything that an outside advisor who was just looking at like his dreams or whatever would think he wants. Not what he actually wants, but what somebody might think he
Yeah,
wants. And
it's
I
like
think
that
that's interesting.
conservative. I mean, it's a conservative dream. Like you can do whatever he wants, kill whoever he wants. I mean, women are flashing their breasts in it. I mean, it. And that line is what made me think Brainiac is like, oh, it's just what you want to see. And I'm like, technically, we really haven't seen any evidence that there is another dimension, like that is real.
Yeah, they're only doing it based off of essentially what they've assumed, right? Like whatever tests had done with his father, that's what they're assuming it off of. And I don't know about you, but Peacemaker's father does not seem like the most reliable source of information. He may be wrong. It sounds like he doesn't actually know what he's talking about, maybe at all. Like he might have some level of a technological understanding, like enough to use this equipment, right? But it seems like his actual knowledge was not very strong. So I'm wondering if he might just be straight up wrong. Like he told the son, oh, it's his alternate realities, but really it's something more. I still feel like it's probably alternate realities. I'm leaning towards the Occam's razor of this, but I do want to keep my fan brain in check that Brainiac may be behind this, or someone may be behind this at
And
making this what Peacemaker wants it to be.
how would they explain the dad? Would they just say that um he was being manipulated too?
They could, because if my theory that he's killed various versions of his son is true, I wonder if this dimension creation doorway has been giving him the version of the son he thinks he wants in all these various timelines, and then he eventually goes and kills that version of his son. And there was that running line through the first season of like, I should have done what I meant to do a long time ago and killed my son. And I wonder if that's not the first time he's done that. Maybe he's killed his son many times over, and he planned to do that for this one too, but he chickened out or something like that, you know. And that could be an interesting explanation for this.
If it wasn't Brainiac, are there any other DC characters that would do something like that with the manipulating?
I don't know the villain deeply enough, especially because James Gunn's the type to pull someone like real deep from the continuity. Like Brainiac, he could go with, but Brainiac is so big and popular that I wonder if James Gunn will lean away from that. Like he tends to go for smaller scale villains, but at the same time, DC needs, I think, like a big antagonist. Even the MCU, like they had stuff like Thanos, but Thanos was not like super present throughout the Infinity Saga. He showed up here and there. I wonder if James Gunn's learning from that and he's going to have Brainiac be essentially all over the place. He may
Yeah,
have already been in the previous two projects, we just didn't know it.
what makes me think Brainiac is he's hyping the show up this season like it's going to be directly setting up Man of Tomorrow, and what better way to set it up if Brainiac's the villain there to have him be behind all this, and like maybe there's a specific reason. Even you could still have the multiversal stuff exist, and he also was doing the manipulating. You could do both, so then maybe there's some reason like why Peacemaker and his dad got this, and then that's how he'll fit into like Justice League or Man of Tomorrow or something.
I'm very certain that this alien we see in the opening sequence is going to factor into whatever this larger scale story is, how he got to Earth, where this technology came from, what he was trying to say to them, I think is all going to be important. And I I also wonder like if Brainiac is behind all of this, why? Like, what is he trying? What would be the goal of him to manipulate Peacemaker? What is he actually trying to accomplish with that? Like, what is he gaining by doing this? And I sure he'll have an explanation for that if that's where they're going to go with. But to me, the biggest reason is the typical conspiracy theory, fan theory reason is like, well, why is this actually happening? Right? Why would Brainiac actually do this? And I can't tell you why.
Yeah, I got. Yeah, I got nothing. I'm also not like knowledgeable on the comics. Like, I'm yeah, but I do. I mean, I do think Brainiac is the villain, and Man of Tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think ultimately whoever the villain is in Man of Tomorrow is what they're going to set up here. That makes the most
Yeah.
sense. If we're talking about this as a prelude to that, it doesn't really make sense to introduce any like huge plot point. Just introduce the villain in a way where when you're watching Superman, you don't really have to see this, but if you do see this, you're more excited.
And there's other reasons to think it's Brainiac too, like the whole thing with Superman's parents, which is probably real, but maybe not. And if it's not, what better way to explain that than to a character that's literally AI and like creates illusions?
That's a very
So
good theory. And I mentioned that I think we may end up seeing that Brainiac has been present, plot wise at least, like throughout these last two projects. And I think that might be a way where he was manipulating Superman the whole time, and maybe he was manipulating like Amanda Waller or something like that the whole
yeah,
time too. And he's been behind it, even all the way back into Suicide Squad times.
yeah. I mean, like a month ago, it was just that thing in Superman, but then there was that thing that came out that people spotted that the news thing, and then now there's stuff in Peacemaker. So it's like it's leaning towards yes.
I'm
Um,
really excited for it. And yeah, James Gunn's hyped the season up so much that I don't think we're gonna have to wait. Like by the end of this season, we're definitely going to be getting a lot of answers and a lot of information, a lot of continuity connections, and any level of like, oh, is it Brainiac? Is it this? Is it that? They're going to tell us this season. James Gunn's not the type to leave a bunch of stuff on the table. He seems to really want to wrap things up in one go. So I think we're going to have answers to all these questions. And yeah, like
and
where did that radio come from? All that stuff he's making us think about for a reason.
and at this point, it is pretty likely that Peacemaker will be in Man of Tomorrow. Like, did what kind of role he'll have? Who knows? But I think he will be in it, and more than just like that one cameo.
I'm looking to see if there's anything else we want to talk about here. Let's talk about some of the action scenes. First, we'll bring up the Peacemaker and Judo Master rematch. They had a really cool fight in the first season that got cut short by a gunshot, and now they got to kind of fight it out. So, what'd you think of this battle in the woods between John Cena and the Judo Master?
I really liked when he first shows up and he does like a million flips. Like this character is like James Gunn picked this character from the deepest, darkest well, and is like, yeah, I'm just gonna use this character to be hilarious and ridiculous. Like he's always eating flaming hot Cheetos or whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
how is this guy gonna have a cramp? He's chowing down snacks and then just doing like 15 backflips in a row right afterwards. I'm like, this guy's gonna be puking.
yeah, I really liked that fight. Not, I mean, I don't have a ton to say. It was just fun. It wasn't a very long fight, was it?
No, neither one of the fights in this were super long. The action sequences were strong at the beginning, but I feel like some of the action in this episode was a little disappointing. I'm hoping
I
that the actual Eagle battle can be a little more exciting than some of the stuff we got
I
here.
got yeah. I guess there's the hardcore, like when you catch up with her and she's fighting another scumbag.
Yeah, back in her usual, not picking fights, but totally picking fights. She's fighting in some like Mortal Kombat Street Fighter arena. Looks like it was lit like an MTV music video.
Yeah, not really a ton to say. Is there anything else to
I
talk
what
about from
one
the
thing about
episode?
that scene is interesting because they do an homage or in some way an homage to Superman, where she has a slow mo punch of a guy's mouth and his teeth come at the
Oh
camera in slow
right,
motion. Already back to the well, James. Repeating yourself. What are we doing?
yeah,
I thought
yeah,
that was cool though. Nice little
yeah.
slow mo. It's good to throw some Zack Snyder love in there.
I questioned if this episode was directed by James Gunn at one point, but it wasn't. Oh, he clearly does have a lot of impact on how these episodes are directed, even if it's not him directing them.
Yeah, I wonder how much of it was written. He's saying then there's a slow motion shot of the teeth flying. Like, yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. Is there anything else to? That's well. I guess there's a scene where Adrian shows up.
Yeah, we
Um.
finally got Adrian, and he's questioning like, "Oh, is there a multiverse version of me? I wonder what he's like." And I also wonder what he's like. I'm scared what he is like. I'm also excited to see that actor. He's been very hilarious in the show, so I'm curious to see what he does if we see an alternate vigilante what he does with the performance. But I'm also excited to see a vigilante who doesn't have Chris around. Chris was so influential on his life, on turning him around, on making him care a little more, have friends, and that kind of thing. So if we see a version of him who never had Chris as a friend, or like Chris abandoned him or something like that, is he just like totally off the deep end, like murderer, psychotic, just going around killing random civilians for no reason type of psychotic? That could be an interesting thing to see.
Yeah. Overall, I like the episode. It was fun, but you know, not a ton happened. It moved the needle, but it didn't really move it like a lot.
Yeah, it put everything into place, and I think that's necessary for a show like this, especially now that we're exactly halfway through and we have 4 episodes left. They've all got everybody finally together, right? So when I look forward to next week's episode, that's mostly what I'm excited for, is to see all these characters who haven't really had a chance to talk, at least not in a really long time, finally talk, right? I'm really excited to see Peacemaker and Rick Flag Sr. have a conversation, especially now that Peacemaker has met a different version of his son. I'm sure he'll mention that. How does Rick Flag Sr. react to that information, knowing that there's some version of his son out there that he can talk to, that he can speak to, and he's only a doorway away? It's a doorway he has some level of access to. Is Rick Flag Sr. going to feel the exact same pull that Peacemaker feels of, I can go back there and I can have the life I
And
want to live?
and don't forget that next week will be the fight between the two of them, because James Gunn has teased this bloody fight between Peacemaker and Rick Flag Sr.
And we know that's next week.
I mean, I think it probably will be next week.
That's awesome. I really hope that's next week. I would love to see that, because I'm really excited to see those two characters have a conversation.
I just don't see that fight happening like later on. Like the fight will happen first, and then they'll come together at some point in this last half.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I think now is like your all is lost moment, right? You're going to see them fight. You're going to see the 11th Street kids have a huge falling out. You're going to see Economos be like, "Oh, I never should have trusted you." You're gonna see all that stuff next week.
Yeah,
You're going to see
I
the
would
collapse of this gang for a bit.
I would guess they start talking, then start arguing, and then I would honestly probably guess that Rick Flag is the one who pulls the first punch.
Yeah, I'm really curious how we have things go next week, man. Do you have any other predictions for any other characters?
I don't think so. Just next week's gonna be Eagle in danger, and then Peacemaker and Rick Flag finally interacting.
Yeah, and it looks like next week we'll end with, I'm predicting, like a very huge cliffhanger. Eagle and Peacemaker walking into the doorway to some alternate reality, some huge cameo, something goes really, really wrong, because after this week, James Gunn's back. Not this week, but after next week, James Gunn's back. So I think next week is going to do a lot of getting us right to that doorway, right to that edge of, here we go. These last 3 episodes have been hyped up forever are finally happening. Like next week is our last episode that's not part of those 3. So this is going to be our setting up phase. This is going to be, telling us why all 3 of those episodes are so exciting, and I can't wait. Like, I think next week we're going to have a lot to talk about. This week we knocked out maybe half an hour because there was just not a ton of movement here. There was stuff to talk about, action scenes and things like that, but it was all getting the pieces together, and I think next week is going to be blowing the lid off and getting us prepared for that final arc. Because, yeah, like I said, we're right about to be in that final 3 that James Gunn has hyped up for who knows how long now. We're almost there. Anything else for you, or are you ready to sign off for the night and head on to
No, I
next week?
think that's everything.
Yeah, I think we've got it all. Like I said, we're going to be here next week covering the next episode. It's episode 5 of the season. It's called Back to the Searcher, I believe is how you pronounce the word. Suture. Suitor? He always does puns. Surtur. Back to this. Oh, it's Back to the Surtur. A pun on Back to the Future, folks. They're doing a Back to the Future pun next week.
Okay.
Took me a second. I was trying to find the pun, but I found it. But I wonder what that means. Are we going to do time travel? Are we going to go back to that scene in the forest and get back to his brother and his dad and be like, what happened? He never found this.
He's going to stop that creature from being killed, and then that creature will become Brainiac.
Wow.
That creature will be the alien in the the multiverse room, and it only happens because he saves it, and then he becomes Brainiac.
That would be a real twist. I'm still waiting for the Rick Flag Senior's Clayface twist to be revealed.
Oh boy. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us.
Yeah, we gotta end it there. I can't
Yep.
get into the Rick Flag Clayface theory, or we'll
Okay.
never have another episode.
Okay. Peace out.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next week. We have a lot going on the channel. We'll see you then. Bye. Eat peace.